Welcome and thanks for joining today. Just a quick reminder that we are going to be recording the first portion of this group. So if you have any questions at the beginning, please feel free to put them in the chat box and then we'll have time to discuss later. Today's group is helping children learn to apologize and actually mean it. So we're going to start off with a little scenario. What do you do? There's a child that angrily hits another child at the park. The parent is horrified, usually when in public, knowing that the socially acceptable immediate response should be to apologize. The parent tells the child, say you're sorry. And the child with furrowed brows rolls eyes and says, sorry. Then the parent tells the child, say it like you mean it. And the child begrudgingly utters an exaggerated and sarcastic, sorry. So what do you do? I think as a parent, we've all been in this situation where we want our child to genuinely be sorry for what they've done, but it's really clear in their apology that they're not. I know with my two kids, amongst each other, they rarely mean it when they say sorry. And it usually comes out with a lot of attitude. And so I get frustrated because I want them to have the skill of saying sorry, but more than saying it, I want them to mean it. And that's something that can't always be forced onto a child. Some recent developments in research, over the past 15 plus years, there's new theory that's been taught to young children that an insincere apology has no value. And that if you're just saying sorry because it's an an automatic response that you've been taught you have to say, that it's not really teaching about actually being sorry and meaning it. And most people can detect an insincere apology. So many children grew up with the belief system and never developed what should be an automatic habit of saying I'm sorry. Instead, these children view apologizing as some sort of horrible admission of guilt, a surrender or humiliation, and then they refuse to do it. And I've seen adults like this too, where they refuse to say sorry, they refuse to apologize, and I think underneath that is that they think that they're saying they did something wrong. So then it becomes surrender, it becomes humiliation, and then there's a refusal to do it. And so I think teaching this skill at a younger age helps because they're understanding that they're at least just saying sorry for the part that they're sorry about. I know for me, if I say no to my child and they say, Mama, I'm so angry with you, I might apologize and say, I'm sorry that I made you feel so angry. It doesn't change. I'm not sorry that I said no. I'm just sorry that it caused them to feel so upset and so angry. So what was supposed to happen was that children got old enough to understand their role in hurting someone, and they would sincerely feel sorry and start apologizing. But then that doesn't happen because it's a forced apology that they've been taught their whole lives. So the unwillingness to automatically apologize is causing parents and teachers to fear that these children don't truly feel sorry and that they have no remorse. I just threw this quote in and I couldn't find who it was from, but I really liked it. Apologizing does not always mean that you're wrong and that the other person is right. It just means that you value your relationship more than your ego. And so sometimes we're apologizing to save a relationship. No, I do this with my husband a lot. But again, it's okay to add into the apology that you're sorry that you made them feel a certain way. So it may not be that you're apologizing for your actions or your words. Maybe you meant what you said or did, but you do apologize that it's hurting the other person that you did it. Um, so whether your child does something verbally or physically in retaliation or by accident, it's recommended that they learn the social skill of saying, I'm sorry. Just as young children really learn to be truly appreciative many years after they start saying thank you, right? We teach kids to say thank you and they don't even know what the words mean. I think when they start, I see really young kids just being like thank you, and they know that they say it after they get something that they want, but they might not fully grasp the concept yet. And so very young children should be taught to say I'm sorry at the same for the same reason. Like we want it to eventually become something that they mean and something that's automatic without necessarily having to force it upon them. So it's not to say we don't get them to say I'm sorry because they don't mean it at the beginning. We still want to say it, but we want to do it in a way that teaches them why they're sorry. So and sorry, the other thing to add on here is whether it was by accident or on purpose. I think kids really get that when they do something on purpose that they need to say sorry, My daughter's 5 and she still struggles with apologizing because her response is always, oh, but it was an accident. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You still hurt the other person. You're apologizing for the feeling, not necessarily the behavior, because it was accidental, it was unintentional. Um, when young children learn to say sorry, after time, they come to realize that they shouldn't have done what they did and they feel sincerely sorry and willing to accept blame. We want apologizing to be automatic, just like please and thank you. So, how to apologize when a sarcastic sorry doesn't cut it? Help your child understand that the lack of intent doesn't make an apology unnecessary. Like I just said, even if the action was an accident, doesn't mean you don't have to say sorry. If I walk, and I think modeling is such an important way to do this. So if I accidentally bump into someone, I'll turn around and say, "Oh, sorry, I did that. It was an accident." But I might talk through it with my child afterwards, and say, "Oh, I bumped into that person by accident, but I still could have hurt them, so I need to say sorry." Um, Many children will assume or hide behind the idea that you only need to make amends when you intentionally harm someone, but hurt is hurt. So whether it's accidental or intentional, we need to realize that what's happened and we need to make it right. A good apology accepts responsibility. Many times, what offended people is what. Sorry, many times what offended people. The language on there is a little odd. Need to do some better proofreading, but it's the acknowledgement that we did something to hurt them. So what people want is just to be acknowledged that we've hurt them, again, whether intentional or accidental. So we want to train our children to restate what they did wrong in their opening apology statement. I'm sorry I said that I couldn't that you couldn't play with us. That wasn't nice. So I think the key to teaching in there is, yes, it might feel a little forced at the beginning, but when we're teaching our children to apologize, we do want to throw in there, like, don't just say you're sorry, but explain what you're sorry for. I got into a bad habit with my kids of telling them to apologize to one another. And then I realized they're just saying it because I'm telling them to say it. They have no idea why they're saying sorry. So I would say, you need to apologize to your sister for throwing her favorite toy. And then my son would say, sorry, I threw your favorite toy. And he doesn't always mean it, but at least I'm adding in there the why. A real apology is sincerely expressed. Again, I don't know how much we can force this on younger children, but we at least want to try, and we especially want to model it. The authenticity of an apology is more in the delivery than the words themselves. So yeah, I think that's the hardest part to teach. With apologies, the sooner the better. So teaching your child to take care of business in their relationships by apologizing promptly when necessary. The longer an offense hangs in the air between two people, the bigger it gets. So even explaining that to your child, like if we don't say sorry right away, then it can cause our friends to not want to play with us or be friends with us. Or if it's a stranger that we hurt, they might go home from the park and then we don't get a chance to apologize. Sometimes we do need those late apologies, and my personal belief is it's better something than nothing. Sometimes my kids, the next day will go back and say sorry to their dad for something that they did the day before, and I'll take it. Take any apology I can get. Sincere apologies need to offer to try to make it right. So your preschool, it says with your preschool, this might look like, I'm sorry I knocked over your Lego tower. Can I help to rebuild it? I love this example because this happens with my children almost daily. So between siblings, it might say, I'm sorry I borrowed your jeans without asking. I'm going to wash and iron them and return them today. Again, I'm probably talking about teenagers here in this one. Sometimes the offer of restitution will be declined, but we should teach our children to offer whatever they can do when they've messed up, to offer to rectify the situation and restore it. I will try to find the actual episode, but there's an amazing Daniel Tiger. If you know Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, it's a great show. And there's one on apologizing. And I remember watching it with my kids and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't even have to teach them about apologizing. This is awesome. And one thing that he says in the show is, what can I do to make it better? So whether the action was done on purpose or accidentally, like you knock over, my kids love to play with those magnetic tiles, and they're really easy to knock over. And sometimes my son just comes barreling through and knocks over my daughter's tower. And I love in the show, they say, what can I do to make it better? And I noticed that without me having to teach it, my kids started picking up on that, right? And so my daughter will say to my son, you need to ask me what you can do to make it better. But I loved that phrasing. And so sometimes just grabbing books on apologizing or a quick show. I do highly recommend the Daniel Tiger one. You can probably find it up on YouTube or somewhere free. And that helps them have the language of what can I do to make this right? What can I do to make this better again? How can I help again? Things you want to avoid is mixed apologies. So where we're adding in justifications, qualifiers, and with an apology, it can diminish your communication. Especially with adults. I mean, I don't like it when someone offers me a mixed apology of like, I'm sorry I did this, but you did this, or this was your fault in it. It can backfire and it still affects the relationship. And then it makes the other person feel like you don't really mean what you're saying. So we want to teach kids to avoid that. Again, apologizing doesn't mean giving in. Don't make promises you can't keep by saying you're going to do something just because the other person's unhappy about it. You can apologize if the person's unhappy, but it may still need to hold the boundary. So an example is that we can teach children to say, I'm sorry that this hurt your feelings, but I still don't want to play right now. Unnecessary apologies also we want to avoid. If what happened is not harming anyone or upsetting anyone, there's not necessarily a reason to apologize. So we also don't want to over apologize for things. We want to use them when they mean something and when they're really needed. Anytime you overuse something with a child, they're less likely to want to do it. How to say sorry. The best thing you can do with your children is not necessarily tell them these things, but use it yourself. I sometimes lose it. I sometimes get angry. I sometimes raise my voice. And so I want to use these techniques so that I can model for my child how to offer a proper apology. We want to make eye contact. We want to use a sincere voice. And and I will guide my child through this when they're the one needing to apologize. So you're saying, and we've talked about this through the other slides, but I'm sorry for this is wrong because in the future I will, or next time I will. Will you forgive me, or what can I do to make it better? I added the Daniel Tiger one in there. Those are the 4 components of a really great apology, right? I'm sorry I knocked over your tower. If you could say like, it's wrong because you spent so much time on it, or, even if you don't use the words, this is wrong because I can see you spent a lot of time on it. Next time I won't come running into the room. What can I do to make it better? And the offering of what you can do to make it better, 9 times out of 10, especially with kids, they won't want you to do anything. But one thing I do with my children, and I've seen other families do, is try to give them ideas of what they can do. Can I help you rebuild your tower? Or a big one is like my daughter won't want to play with the tiles anymore. And so my son will say, can I help you clean that up? Right. So they can offer the option of what can I do, or they can give the idea, because most people are so upset that they don't have the idea offhand. We want to teach the importance of repairing rifts in relationship. Ultimately, when we apologize, it's because we don't want to hurt a relationship. It's usually we're around people that we care about, friends, family, and we want to focus on repairing that. So, premature apologies won't be heartfelt and may backfire, causing the child to hold a grudge. Giving children a chance to cool down first always works better. Apologizing is a very useful friendship and social skill that requires learning. Children learn how to apologize by watching their parents and other caregivers. If you never apologize, they won't either. And they won't necessarily connect why that's rifting a relationship, but they will see the result of that. Your children will not, if you never apologize to your children for what you do, not only will they not apologize, but it'll harm your relationship. If you apologize graciously and often to them and to others, they will too. And the secret of helping children learn to apologize is not making the apology into a punishment, right? You're not angry saying, say sorry right now, right? It's got to be done in a way of, wow, look at, we really hurt that other person, right? Showing empathy. We're apologizing in a way to show empathy. So acknowledging that and saying, wow, look at your sister's face. Do you think she's upset right now? Maybe we need to go say sorry, right? And then you take them through the 4-step sorry. Steps to working on relationship repair: calm all the way down. Invite your child to speak with you well after everyone has had time to regroup on the situation. Ask how your child feels about your behavior without necessarily defending yourself. And talk about what you regret, name it, help problem solve together. How are you going to act in the future? This is great when you're coming back to it a little bit later. Um, Talk to your child about his or her calm down plan. If you have a child like my daughter, she gets really intensely emotional really fast. And so sometimes the apology can't always happen in the moment, but she's great at talking about it later. So sometimes before bed, I'll say, hey, what happened there? And we'll talk about it. And then I'll say, okay, so next time, what are we going to do different? How can we get you to calm down so that you're able to say sorry and repair that relationship? um, Apologizing, walk your talk, make sure you're doing it too, and understand that some moments are too big to recover from. Another great quote, model the good behavior you want to see. If you do trip up, be big enough to admit it and apologize. Nothing will teach your child poor behavior more quickly than hypocrisy, and few things will touch your children more effectively than your humility. Again, I know I've said it like 10 times, I think, but just modeling the behavior you want to see in your child and being able to stop and say you're sorry when you are sorry too. Just because you're the parent doesn't mean you don't need to apologize. These are just some references, since a lot of this stuff from this group came from different resources. And if you want to check any of them out, please feel free. They're all great. If you have any further questions on this topic, you can give us an email at admin@camray.ca, which is our general email for all programming. For this specific program, you can email us at pspgroupsignup@camray.ca. You can check out our website at www.camray.ca. Or you can give us a call at our general number at 604-436-9449, and our admin can point you in the right direction of where you need to go if you want to have some follow-up appointments so that you can answer more questions from this group or any other group that we have. Thank you so much for joining today.